Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am doing the eReader tag, created by Micah Cummings. I was tagged in his original video, and I was subsequently tagged by Michael K. Vaughn. So the pressure is on after a double tag. This tag has 8 prompts. What was the first e-reader you ever owned? What was your reason for getting one? Were you a reluctant convert or an eager one? Now, I am probably one of the earliest adopters of e-reading on BookTube. There are probably a few others who have adopted before me, but I have not seen them. And I would like them to come out of the woodwork and talk about their early e-reading experiences. So technically, the first ebook reader I got was around 1999, and that was just a CD collection of public domain books from Project Gutenberg. And you put your CD into your desktop computer and read off the monitor. Not a really great way to read ebooks, but I was infatuated. Never actually succeeded in reading a whole book that way, but still, I was infatuated. 2002, my wife bought me a gift, a Franklin E. Bookman. And this was more like our current devices, just very old. It had an LCD screen. You had little buttons at the bottom where you could navigate. And it was attached to a very limited store of book choices. And everything was plain text. And the device just did not work all that well. I was able to download a book from Project Gutenberg, The Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, but it was just not a very pleasant reading experience. And I eventually returned it to the store because it just was not very good. And you think that would have killed my enthusiasm for e-reading, but no. I bought a Dell Axiom Pocket PC in 2002, and that was created by Microsoft. It had its own Microsoft mobile operating system, and it had a very good functional ebook reader, and it worked off the .lit format, which was a very dominant format in those early days of e-reading. And I was actually able to purchase ebooks from Amazon in those days. You would order an ebook on the site, and up to 24 hours later, they gave you a link to download that ebook. Yeah, 24 hours. They've come a long way. And that's how I started. You could also purchase books from websites like FictionWise, which has gone out of business, and so forth. And I read 85 ebooks on that device between 2002 and 2006. And I loved that device. My wife called it the marriage saver because when we went out to dinner, often she would like to go shopping afterwards. And I was just not interested in shopping. I'd be tugging at her sleeve saying, "You ready to go yet? Ready to go yet? You ready to go yet?" But with that e-reading device, she could sit me down in front of a store. I could happily read my book while she went shopping. But for whatever reason, around 2007, I stopped using that device. But then in 2008, I got the original Amazon Kindle, and I have not looked back since then. I've been a consistent Kindle reader ever since then. And the first Kindle device was a very clunky little thing. It was a horribly hideous device that had this keyboard down below, and it had this scroll wheel with this silver line where you matched up to the line on the text, and then you'd arrow over and you could select the text. It was just a nightmare device, but I loved it. I could read lots of books. And I upgraded every time Amazon came out with a new Kindle, till about the 4th generation when I started getting tired of spending so much money at Amazon. And I started waiting between iterations of devices until they made a major improvement. And so here is my oldest surviving Kindle. It comes from around 2012. It is no longer hooked up to my account. I had originally intended to trade it in at Amazon for like $5 off my next Kindle purchase, but I never got around to that. But this device is technically still able to be used. The 3G, which comes with this device, is obsolete, but it still has Wi-Fi, and you can still connect it to your computer to sideload it. I'm never going to use it again. But if someone out there on BookTube wants a very old Kindle of questionable value, I'll go ahead and mail it out to you. And all you have to do is send me an old pulpy paperback in return, and we'll call it a deal. I did eventually upgrade to the Kindle Oasis. Now I'm holding this in my left hand, which is kind of awkward. Normally, I would read it in my right hand, sort of like this, and use my thumb. What we have here is the side buttons, and I really like the side buttons. I like the asymmetric way of this Kindle's design. So you have something very easy to hold on to when you're reading, and it's just a lot of space. And this Kindle Oasis was just fabulous. I really loved it. It never had a great battery life, but as it aged, the battery life got worse and worse. Micah described that on his video, and I had the same thing. Towards the end, the battery life on this Kindle was just abysmal. If I started an evening out with a 100% charge and read for 2 hours, I'd be down to like 50% battery life. And that just would not cut it if I were on the go. If I were on vacation, on an airplane, reading on the beach, the battery just would not be sufficient. So while this is still a very usable device, if I am at home, it's not good for travel. So what I had to do is buy the next, and this is the most current Kindle. This is the Paperwhite Signature Edition, and the battery life on this is just fantastic. I've been reading for about 2 weeks on a charge. I read it almost every day. I believe I've read 3 whole books, and it's still at about 20% charge. So the battery life is just fantastic. It's about the same screen size as the Kindle Oasis, but I do miss those side buttons. Now the big problem with this is that Kindle may be coming out with, Amazon is coming out with more Kindles. They already have a much larger Kindle Signature that's coming out, that's 10 inches, and I really want that. I'm trying to justify the price, considering this Kindle is just about a year old, and while I would enjoy the bigger screen, it also comes with note-taking capabilities, and I just probably would never use that pen to write notes in my Kindle. There is also a rumor, I do not know if this is true, that Amazon will come out with a 4th edition of the Kindle Oasis sometime this year. So I'm sort of holding off putting in my order for that Scribe edition, maybe for a Kindle Oasis 4. Number 2, what e-reader do you use now? What readers do you own? I think I've gone over that pretty carefully. Previous e-readers, I did buy a basic Kobo edition when Borders, Books and Music was going out of business. They were having a fire sale, and I bought the cheapest model available for 60% off. And I read maybe 2 books and said, nah, this is just a cheap device. But Kobo is almost certainly a lot better nowadays. I also have this big fancy iPad Pro 12-inch, which I do use occasionally for e-reading. The reason to read this is that you want a whole lot of text on your screen, or you want some color capabilities for your book. Now, the type of book that would require color is like a Van Gogh biography that I read, where you have color plates within the book, and you want to look at those paintings in color. Because while this book, this Kindle, is excellent for reading text, it is not that great for viewing pictures, especially pictures that you want to view in color. Prompt number 4. Do you still read physical books? If so, how do you decide which format to read a certain book in? If I own the book in a physical format, I'll just read it there. A reason I would possibly buy a Kindle version of a book I own is when it's dirt cheap, because Amazon sometimes has excellent sales on ebooks where you can buy a book for $1.99, and I buy that like crack. If I see a book that I like for $1.99, I just buy it and worry about when I'm going to read it some other day. I also like to buy books that I think the physical edition just adds value. Sort of like over here, where I have a collection of the New York Book Review classics. I just like having these in physical copy because they look very nice on my shelf. Technically, reading an ebook of those is just fine, probably even better, but I still like having those books on my shelves. So that would be an occasion when I'd probably buy the physical over the ebook and read the physical. Prompt number 5. What is something you dislike about reading ebooks? The formatting can occasionally be very bad in ebooks. Publishers just don't often care that the ebook is not as well designed as the physical book. You will find many more typos in an ebook. And sometimes they're just wonky formatting, strange paragraph breaks that who was ever supposed to be editing that ebook, they're probably more concerned about who they're going out to lunch with, or was it quitting time, and not paying a whole lot of attention. Also, I have a bone to pick with some publishers. Some publishers hard code ragged write into their ebooks, and as opposed to justified text. Now, justified text is what you see in a book, where the left column is the same length as the right column. But in ragged write, the right can be shorter or a different length than every other line. So reading it, you have text. It just does this ragged, jagged line going down on the right end. Now, there is some old justification for that, especially in the early days of ebooks. The justification programming wasn't always perfect. So the spaces between words were often noticeably larger or smaller. And I guess some people found reading the spaces with that different size much more jarring than the ragged write. I always found the ragged write much more jarring. But today's programming, there is absolutely no reason to have a ragged write hard-coded into the ebook. The Amazon Kindle lets some readers, or all readers can choose to have a ragged write margin if that's what they prefer. But when the publisher hard codes ragged write, you can't make it justified. And that annoys me. Prompt number 6. Would you ever ditch physical books completely and become a sole ebook reader? If yes, why? If no, why? Maybe. I think I would always like to have physical books, especially nice physical books, like my collection of the New York Review book classics and some others. But hauling around books especially a large library like mine, is very difficult. And I've pretty much decided that if I ever have to move again, I have to shrink my library. And depending on the reasons why I move, I may not have the ability to take a whole lot of books with me. But yes, I think I could switch over entirely to an ebook only library, but I would very much miss my physical library. Prompt number 7. Where do you get your ebooks? Kindle store, library loans, third-party websites. Almost all my ebooks are purchased from the Amazon store. I know some people think they're evil, but they're just so convenient, and I just have such a long history with the Kindle. It would be detrimental to me to switch to another format. I do occasionally get library loans. Library loans can be problematic because depending on the book that you want, there can be a waiting list, and that waiting list can be inconsistent. You don't know when that book is going to become available to me as a reader. And if I am on a schedule, that just does not work. An example would be when I was a judge for the BookTube prize earlier this year. I got some of the books that I read as library loans if they were currently available. If there was a waiting list between like 5 people or 10 people, I could not rely on that book becoming available when I needed it. So I'd have to purchase it. Okay. Libraries are a useful tool, but they're not the only tool. Third-party websites. I honestly have not bought a lot of books from third-party websites since I switched over to the Kindle. In the old days, when I had my Dell Axiom PDA, I did occasionally buy from third parties because they were a lot more common back then. But today, not so much. Prompt number 8, tag some fellow booktubers. I think a lot of people have already been tagged who do a lot of e-reading. I have not seen Jim at Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff tagged. So I'm going to tag him because he lives in the country of Georgia, where physical books in English are a little harder to come by than in English-speaking countries. So I'd like to hear about his experience with e-reading. Well, thank you for watching. Keep on reading, especially reading on e-devices.